Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Cinema Heroes. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm Jay Stu.
And today we're talking about The Shining. Released in 1980. I love that 4K artwork.
As do I.
Yeah, I need to get it. Released in 1980, directed by Stanley Kubrick. Written by Stanley Kubrick and Diane Johnson from the novel by Stephen King. And starring Jack Nicholson, Shelley Duvall, Danny Lloyd, Scatman Crothers, Barry Nelson, Phillips, a bunch of other people that I don't really recognize the names of, I guess. I'm trying to see if there's any other kind of big names in here. Not really, I guess. Oh, Joe Turkel was in Blade Runner. I did recognize him. I didn't know his name, but anyway. Jack Nicholson, Shelley Duvall, Scatman Crothers. That's pretty much the main cast. So real quick, you may be wondering what happened to the Harry Potter marathon. We're just taking a 1-week break for Halloween. We're going to do a scary movie for Halloween. And then we're going to be right back at it next week with The Order of the Phoenix all the way through Deathly Hallows Part 2. No more breaks for the rest of the Harry Potter franchise. So yeah, we're just, I meant to mention that in the beginning, or at the end of the last episode, and I totally forgot. So yeah, we're just taking a small little break for Halloween. Then we're going right back into Harry Potter. But yeah, released in 1980. Stanley Kubrick directed it. Like I said, based on Stephen King. It's considered one of the greatest horror films of all time. Before I ask you, Stu, I don't really have a memory of seeing this for the first time. I'm pretty sure it wasn't until I was an adult. It might have been when I was working at Blockbuster and I rented it or something. But I had seen the 97 miniseries first, because that came on when I was in middle school, and I remember watching it and just thinking it was cool. And then I bought the book in middle school, and it dawned on me the other day that I've always thought I had read it, but I feel like in middle school, I probably started it, and I don't know if I ever finished it. So I actually don't know if I've ever actually read this book. I need to read it. I thought I had. But anyway, I saw this as an adult, I'm pretty sure, and thought it was much different than the miniseries. And at first, I used to kind of say that this was a better movie, but a less good adaptation of the book, because I always thought the miniseries was a better adaptation, even though, again, I don't know if I've ever actually read the book. But now I think this movie is awesome. And it may not be the greatest adaptation, but it's really good. So Stu, when did you see it for the first time? Do you have a memory of it?
Yes, I was a teenager the first time I saw this. I during that period of time in my life when I was watching everything under the sun, and I immediately loved this movie. To this day, I still don't quite understand it.
Okay.
Because I mean, that's Kubrick. I understand most of it, but certain choices that he made, like certain imagery, I don't really know how to interpret it, and I like that. I want to keep it that way. I like it being ambiguous. Like the mystery. Right. Yeah. And the thing about Stanley Kubrick, well, first let me say this. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. This movie's in my top 5.
Oh wow. Okay.
I absolutely love this movie. And the reason I love it is because Stanley Kubrick, who was considered by many great directors to be one of, if not the greatest director of all time. I don't know if I quite agree with that. I do believe that he is an acquired taste. Even though I love this movie, he's not for everybody. But the thing about Stanley Kubrick is that even if you don't get it, he does. Because I was thinking about David Lynch, and I've never actually seen an entire David Lynch film.
Right.
Because I feel like directors like him are just like weird for the sake of being weird.
Right.
And that's okay. That's his lane. Some people like that. Some people love that. I actually know a person who Lynch is their favorite director. But Stanley Kubrick is more intentional with his weirdness. And like I said, I may not get it, you may not get it, but he understands exactly what he's doing. And you can see that intent in his filmmaking.
Yeah, definitely. And I agree with you. He's not I don't know where I would place Stanley Kubrick in my favorite directors. I appreciate Stanley Kubrick. There's still a handful of his movies that I have not seen yet.
And me too.
Barry Lyndon, Eyes Wide Shut. I haven't watched those yet.
Eyes Wide Shut is a good movie, but I'll probably never watch it again. I watched it once, and that's enough.
And that was enough. Yeah, I've seen 2001, Clockwork Orange, Full Metal Jacket, Shining, Doctor Strangelove. I've seen The Killing, which I really liked. I watched Paths of Glory this year for the first time. And that was pretty good.
Okay,
but again, I like if you think Stanley Kubrick is the greatest filmmaker of all time, like I get it, and that's cool, and that's I totally understand why you would think that. But I agree, he's not. This is my favorite Stanley Kubrick movie, and I've watched this one more than any of the other ones. I think I've seen. I've seen 2001, I think twice, but the rest of them I pretty much have just watched once, and I was like, those were good. Yeah, but haven't really gone back to revisit them. But this movie is my favorite of his, and it's my second favorite Stephen King adaptation. Shawshank Redemption takes the number one spot, but this is the second one. Even though Stephen King himself famously doesn't really care for this movie. Yeah. And we can get into that in a little bit, but you're right about him being intentional, and I'm curious to know what some of the imagery that you don't get, because you might be reminding me of some stuff I didn't get. In fact, once we get to the very end, I didn't realize that I didn't really get that, because I read like a quote from Kubrick, and I was like, oh, which kind of, to me, took kind of like what he said, I guess you would consider definitive because Kubrick said it. But that's not how I view that final shot of the movie, of the picture. Like I said, we can get into it later. But yeah, this movie, it's a little dated. It's got that 80s, late 70s kind of look to it. Yeah. But it's still a beautiful movie, though. That opening, those helicopter shots in the beginning are just gorgeous. Gorgeous. And some of the, was the Steadicam invented for this movie? No, I think that was for Rocky, right? But anyway, they use the Steadicam pretty well in this movie, and some of the cinematography is just fantastic. Oh yeah. So yeah, I really enjoy this movie. It's not in my top 5, but it's probably in my top 5 horror films. And like I said, it's my favorite Kubrick movie out of the ones I've seen. Yeah, definitely in my top 5 all time. Obviously, it's my favorite horror movie of all time. But yeah, I feel the same way about Kubrick as you do. He's not one of my favorite directors, although he made one of my favorite movies. Right. But like I said, he's an acquired taste. I've seen this movie, Full Metal Jacket, 2001, Eyes Wide Shut, and A Clockwork Orange, but I was like halfway watching it, so I kind of don't count that one. But yeah, the first 4, I've seen those. And I like Full Metal Jacket, but the first half of the movie is really what I like to watch. Yeah, exactly. The second half, it's cool, but the first half is what I really like. Yeah, Full Metal Jacket almost feels like 2 separate movies. It's like a part 1, part 2. Yeah. And part 1, I agree with you. I think, and I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I think part 1 is the stronger half of that movie. Yes, I agree. I think most people would agree with that. As far as Eyes Wide Shut, yeah, it's good, but the subject matter of it was not really for me. I don't want to spoil it. Sure. Because I don't think it's a movie that you're expecting. I don't know what you know about the movie at all, but it was definitely something that I was not expecting it to be. Okay. All right. But this movie here, man, Shining, is just it's got a feel to it, like a eerie, creepy feel that's hard to duplicate. I know we're going to talk about this movie later, but Dr. Sleep comes really close to getting that feel. But this is just like you said, it's a beautiful movie, and it's because it's so weird and thematically ambiguous. It's very intriguing and thought-provoking, and this movie always gets people talking because you either love it or you hate it. There are people who really do not like this movie for all the reasons that I just mentioned. Right. And I get it. I'm not one of those people, though. Yeah, no. I'm not either. I actually listened to a podcast recently, and it's a Stephen King podcast. So the guys on the podcast had just read the book, and then they watched the movie, which is never a good idea. It's something I can never help myself. As soon as I finish a book, if there's a movie based on it, I immediately watch the movie. But it is never a good idea because the book is so fresh in your mind that when you watch the movie, then you like notice all the things they changed, and the book is always usually better. And so you're just like, so it leaves you kind of not liking the movie.
Yeah.
If you give yourself some time, wait a year or something before you watch the movie, you might still not like the movie, but at least it won't be so fresh in your mind.
Yeah. See, I never read the book, so
yeah,
I didn't have that problem.
They didn't really, it's not that they didn't like it, but they did point out something that they actually pointed out two things that I've never noticed. One of the things is Jack Torrance literally in this movie does no caretaking.
Oh no.
He gets hired as a caretaker, and we see Wendy doing stuff. Yeah. But Jack just like throws the ball against the wall and sits at his typewriter, and we never see him actually taking care of that hotel, which is kind of funny to me. I'm trying to remember what the other thing was. I was going to say like nobody learns anything, which I guess that's not really the point of the movie though. It's not like there's a
lesson to be learned.
Yeah, exactly. It's I don't know. I might be wrong about that. Maybe I'm misremembering what they said, but yeah, they had a couple of, problems with it. But again, like I said, they had just read the book, and at the end of the podcast, they talk about how, they prefer the book over the movie. And so I get that. I understand. Because Kubrick did change quite a bit. And I'm going to go kind of off the miniseries here. Because the miniseries I'm going to assume is fairly close to the book because Stephen King wrote the miniseries. And so like some of the stuff he changed made sense, especially at the time. Like in the movie, it's a hedge maze, which I love the hedge maze. It's such a cool idea. It's such a great final scene. In the book, it's hedge animals and they like come to life. And so in the book, I'm sure it works well. Even in 1980, they couldn't have done it well. And even in 1997, it's cheesy. So I think it was pretty smart to change that. Another big thing is in the book, he uses a croquet mallet, not an axe. It's like kind of a big croquet mallet. It's a certain kind of type of croquet where everything's kind of oversized.
Yeah.
So changing it to an axe, I thought was a pretty smart change because it's scarier. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then another change that I really appreciated is with Tony. So in the 1997 miniseries, Tony shows up as like, he looks like kind of a teenager. And we see it through Danny's perspective. He'll talk to Tony and Tony will be, will talk to him either in like the mirror or he'll just kind of show up, but nobody else can see him. And so, when Wendy or somebody asks him, like, what's Tony saying? Danny just has to repeat what Tony has told him. I really love the idea that he kind of like Tony speaks through Danny and the whole Danny's not here, Mrs. Torrance, that whole thing, like that is super creepy. Like when she's trying to get to talk to Danny and he's Danny's not here. I just love that. So
now that we comparing the book and the series, because I've never read the book. I do have a question. Dr. Sleep kind of answers it, but I still want to ask this question because I want to know whether that was a Mike Flanagan thing or was that accurate to the book. Is Tony the representation of Danny's ability to shine in the book, or is it a completely separate thing?
I think it is. So, like I said, if I read the book, it was back in middle school, and so I really don't remember. In the miniseries, I think basically it is, because like Tony will warn him about stuff, and that kind of gives Danny the heads up about certain things, which like he knows, in the movie, he knows that Jack has already gotten the job because Tony told him and stuff like that. So I think it is supposed to be kind of like his representation of The Shining.
Right.
Or The Shine.
Okay.
Let's talk about, real quick. So one of Stephen King's biggest issues with this movie is he doesn't feel that Jack Nicholson as Jack Torrance had kind of the slow descent into madness. He said he was just kind of his words, I believe, were like he was crazy from the start. I don't know if I totally agree with that. But how do you feel about Jack Nicholson's portrayal as Jack Torrance? Like, it worked for you, or do you feel like it was a little quick, or do you feel like he was crazy from the start?
I don't think that I'm somewhere in the middle, because I don't think that it was a true descent. He went into the hotel a little off.
Right.
And the hotel sensed that, like, oh, this guy, he smells pretty good.
Right.
So
and latched onto him.
Yeah.
That's a good way of putting it. I think in the beginning of the movie, like when he's in the job interview, he seems like a perfectly regular guy. But when, I feel like the first time we see him kind of being like off, like you said, is when Wendy comes to talk to him while he's writing, and he like snaps at her, and is talking about, you break my concentration.
I noticed it before then. I noticed that he was off when they were going to the hotel.
Driving there?
Yeah, when they were driving there. Like, I think it was after he had gotten the job.
Right.
And they were driving up there to live there. When they were talking about something that Danny had seen on television.
Right.
Just the way he was speaking to Wendy, I was like, this guy he's not all there. And I knew that my first watch. Yeah. Because this is another movie that I like to rewatch, because I learn different things and see different things.
Pick up on stuff. Yeah.
I pick up different things on rewatches. But that was something that I noticed on the first watch. I was like, this guy is off. And the hotel, he was already on the edge, and the hotel just gave him a little push.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, and I could see that, and it works for me. I don't, I can understand, like, Stephen King, he wrote the book and he wrote it a certain way. I do think in the book, Jack is a little bit better of a person / father.
More compassionate.
Danny,
yeah.
More compassionate. So it's a bigger change, when the hotel finally does kind of overtake him, or whatever you want to say. But in this movie, he is, now that you mentioned the car scene, I do remember thinking, like, he almost seems annoyed by his kid. Like, his kid's asking him questions, and he's annoyed
by his family. Like,
right.
It's almost as if he doesn't enjoy having a family.
Right. Which maybe that was how he decided to play that. I don't know. But yeah. And then there's the scene where Danny checks on his dad. He thinks his dad is sleeping, actually. He wants to go in there and get something, and his mom doesn't really want him to, but he's like, I won't make a sound, I promise. And he goes in there, and Jack is actually just sitting on the bed. And they talk to each other, and I think Danny asks him a question like, are you going to hurt me and mommy?
Yeah.
And it's just such a creepy scene, because
it's the music. The music during that scene is so... Ugh.
Right. And the music kind of elevates, I think, his performance, because Jack Nicholson just kind of, the way he just takes his time in responding and everything, you're just like, is he about to just like kill this kid right now? Like, it's just, you almost get,
it's almost as if he's talking to him like he's trying to keep it together.
Right. Yeah.
And that's kind of the vibe I got from him throughout the entirety of the movie. Like, you mentioned that, he seemed pretty okay during the interview. To me, it felt like he was a bottle of Coke and Alka-Seltzer. He was trying to keep a lid on it.
Okay. Interesting how we have different, like, takes on that. Maybe I'll have to rewatch it with that kind of thought in mind and see if I pick up on that.
Yeah, because I
can see him trying to put on a certain type of face for a job interview. Being on his best behavior. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I don't know. But the descent doesn't really, I don't think it's too fast. I think it's, I'm kind of like you. I'm kind of on the fence about it. Like you said, he seems off from the beginning. And I do like the idea that the hotel picks up on that and is like, this is our guy. Like, we need to, and it wouldn't be surprised if Grady was the same way. Grady might have been a little off, and the hotel just picked up on that and pounced on it. It works for me. I don't think Jack Nicholson, and then of course, once he goes full blown psycho, I guess.
Yeah.
Jack Nicholson is the perfect actor to play the character.
Wendy, darling, light of my life.
Right, exactly. And the iconic Here's Johnny.
Here's Johnny.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Jack Nicholson blows it out of the water with this role. We just get this creepy, sleazy feeling from him. At least I did throughout the entirety of the movie. And when he finally loses it, it's almost a reward for the viewer because we've been waiting on this the whole movie.
Right.
And it's just I that's one thing that I love about this movie. It's build up and the crescendo of the tone. Mm-hmm. And when we get to the third act, like everything is just chaos.
Right.
But even though everything is chaos, it's still like a kind of subdued chaos because it's just the three of them. It's isolated and like the hotel is so big, it's eerily quiet, but you feel so uneasy with everything that has happened up until that point. And then with Jack finally going crazy, it makes you feel even more unsettled because there's nowhere they can run. Right. They're in the middle of the mountains in the winter. Everybody has gone. They're the only people there for hundreds of miles. Mm-hmm. So they can't go anywhere. So you believe that you almost believe that they're going to die. It's like, how are they going to get out of this? So right. it's to me it's a perfect third act because you have no idea where it's going to go.
Right. Let's talk about Dick Halloran real quick because it's played by Scatman Crothers. Because this was a complaint that the guys on the podcast I listened to had, and I don't think it's a problem at all. I actually really like it. Mm-hmm. So we established in the beginning that Danny can shine, and so can Dick Halloran. And he basically tells Danny, like, if you need anything, just call out, you know. And he's all the way down in Florida, and Dick can tell that Danny needs him, and so we kind of see scene after scene of Dick Halloran trying to get to the hotel. Mm-hmm. And then when he finally gets to the hotel, Jack comes around the corner with the axe and just buries it in his chest. Yeah, and kills him. I think that really works because it's number one, it's a scary moment because it pushes Jack crosses the line and becomes an actual murderer at that point. Yeah. And so we know that he's capable of it. He's
absolutely gone.
And number two, I like the fact that we spent time with Dick watching him try to get to this hotel only to have him just, be kind of cut down. And that was their issue. They were like, why did we spend all this time with him, seeing him go, trying to rent a car and all this stuff. And then as soon as he walks in, he just gets chopped down. And I was like, because that's scary. That's like, that's what you do in a horror
film. It's called subverting expectations.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I really liked it.
I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, no, I don't either. I don't know if that's considered a spoiler, but he does not die in the book. So that was something that they changed for this movie. Mm-hmm. I think he does get attacked by Jack, but he doesn't get killed. Yeah, I really like that a lot. Shelley Duvall as Wendy. What do you think?
Annoying. I see why Jack was talking to her the way he was. That being said, I think she was supposed to play it like that. I think that's how Kubrick wanted it. And, Shelley Duvall did a great job at being an annoying person.
That's funny. I actually don't really find her all that annoying. I actually think she's really good at playing scared.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, when I say annoying, I don't mean like you're bothering me type annoying. When I say annoying, it's like, I don't really know how to describe it. It's not a bother. She's not bothersome. It's just, I don't know.
Is it with the character of Wendy that you find annoying, or is it?
Yeah, it's the character. It's not
Shelley Duvall herself.
Shelley Duvall. It's like
her voice or anything like that.
No, it's not that. I think it's her lack of intelligence, and I think that's because the way I see Jack, like, you knew this man was going crazy. There's no way that she didn't know that he was losing his mind.
She does kind of come across as like helpless.
Yeah. And I don't quite like that.
Yeah. she kind of up until the very end where she's basically forced to act, I guess you could say, she really kind of comes across as somebody who doesn't really know how to do anything on her own, even though we do see her checking the boiler and everything like that. It seems like she's very dependent on Jack.
Yeah, up until that point, she's very dependent and kind of weak. I like very strong female characters, and she is the complete opposite of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it may, I mean,
so I can understand that.
Maybe it's a personal preference, I don't, because I still absolutely love this movie. I adore this movie, but that's just not my favorite thing.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I can see in the reflection of your glasses, Danny riding his big wheel down the carpet, and that's awesome. I love that scene, the way the camera tracks him, and the sound design in that scene too, where the wheels go from the hardwood
the carpet to the hardwood. Yeah,
it's so good, so good.
Yeah, it's like, see, stuff like that. That's very intentional. I like. That's just the magic of filmmaking. But getting into some of the imagery, like one of the things I didn't understand was the person in the dog suit giving that other person some special attention.
Yes. Yeah.
I told you I was gonna make you laugh.
Yes, yeah, you did.
I didn't understand that. What was the purpose of was it a dog? Maybe it was a bunny. I don't know.
It is a dog.
Weird. It's a dog.
It's a dog suit, yeah. And I wish I had read the book recently because I know it's explained more in the book.
That's in the book?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Or at least I believe it is. The guy, I'm fairly certain that scene is in the book. The dog suit and the special attention. So I know, like, we see it a little bit in the gold ballroom. Like, there's, Jack walks in and that place is packed with people and there's a party kind of going on.
A party, yeah.
Is
it a New Year's Eve party?
It might, yeah. I know that's what it is in the picture at the end of the movie. And I feel like in the book, there's more of that. There's more of that party and, like, there's more kind of backstory with those characters. And I think the guy in the dog costume is part of that group and all that and everything.
Okay.
But yeah, Kubrick just decided to not
explain
tell you. Yeah, not explain it at all. And I wish I could explain it better because I don't really remember. But when I read the book, I'll tell you. When I find out, I'll text you. But yeah, I know for whatever reason, Kubrick maybe he thought it would be creepier just to not tell you anything about it and just have this weird guy in a dog costume. Yeah. So, and I think that was. I don't know if that was Grady or if that was somebody else that was sitting on the bed, but
I don't think that was Grady.
Okay.
Maybe it was the bartender. I don't think so. I know it wasn't Grady. Okay. I know that for a fact.
I don't know who it was then because
it kind of looked like the bartender. He looked more like the bartender than he did Grady.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. But yeah, that's a weird moment in the movie for sure. So I'll talk about the end of what Kubrick said about the picture, right? So the movie ends, we see Jack frozen outside and, presumably dead. And the camera then pushes in on a picture that's hanging in the Overlook Hotel. And it gets closer and closer, and you see that Jack Nicholson's standing kind of in the center of this crowd, all, black tie. And it says that it's from New Year's Eve of 1921. And so Kubrick's explanation for that was Jack was the reincarnation of this person who had been at the hotel or something. And I don't like that explanation as much as what I kind of interpreted it as was just that Jack was now a part of the hotel.
Yeah.
He was, just like Grady, we saw, Grady was clearly part of the hotel. The bartender was part of the hotel. The woman in 237 was part of the hotel. Jack was now part of the hotel, but that's apparently not what Kubrick said. So it's just kind of weird to me.
Yeah. I choose not to believe that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly.
Jack is a part of the hotel now. That's what I'm gonna.
Yes. I think that works better.
Yeah, because I think of the hotel as like this glutton for negativity, and that picture was just the hotel digesting Jack.
Yeah. Speaking of imagery, this just happened, and so I feel like I should bring it up. The twins.
Yeah.
The twins, which are now, I feel like, pretty iconic in their own way too.
Absolutely.
The creepy twins in the hallway.
If you've never seen this movie, you know those twins.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
They were Grady's daughters, right? Okay.
Yep. Yeah, because we get that quick visual of them at
Lying
the
on
crime
the
scene,
ground.
basically murdered. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Danny sees it and it scares him, and we are told in the beginning that that Grady, the previous caretaker, they assumed succumbed to cabin fever and killed his family with an axe, and then killed himself. And so Jack is like, "Wow," I think he says that's quite a story or something like that.
Yeah, he's kind of like not even fazed by it.
Right? Yeah, exactly. He's like, "Cool."
Going back to Danny.
Yeah.
Now, it's my understanding that in the book, the hotel actually wants Danny, and Jack is how the hotel is trying to get to Danny. Is that correct?
I think so because Danny is the one with the shining, and so I think they're trying to. Yeah, I think it's trying to get to Danny. I don't really have much more of an explanation for that. Again, I wish I had read the book recently, but
well, the thing is, in the movie, it doesn't seem like that. It seems like the hotel wants Jack,
yeah,
and is not really concerned about
Danny or Wendy. Yeah,
Danny or Wendy or Danny's ability to shine. Now,
yeah, that's true.
If that's true, then why didn't it want like Dick Halloran's shining?
That is a question that I had watching this movie this time around, right? So like they are in this hotel, and I think Dick tells Danny that, he's not scared of the stuff that's in this hotel, and he's like, and you don't have to be either. And that, we find out that that's not true at all. There's plenty of stuff to be scared of. But we assume Dick works in that hotel the other 7 months out of the year. It's close for 5 months, I think. And he seems to be just fine.
Yeah, but yeah, now that you mentioned it, he did say he's not scared of the stuff. So maybe that's why the hotel is not interested in Dick, because he's not afraid. Right.
That could be. He's learned to, maybe kind of learned to live with it, but also like he knows
what it is.
Yeah. I remember in Dr. Sleep, I think it was Dick Halloran in Doctor's, because remember, again, Dick doesn't die in the book. I think Dick tells Danny in Dr. Sleep how to lock these. They're more than images, but like, I think in the beginning of Dr. Sleep, the book, he is visited by the woman in 237. Like, she's kind of like haunting him almost.
Yes.
And Dick teaches him how to like mentally lock her away. And so maybe that is also what he has kind of done with the hotel. Sort of like, he obviously can't lock them away.
So maybe he's not. Now that he's locked them away, he's not even seeing them anymore. Right.
That could be. Yeah. It's just not. And obviously that was something Stephen King came up with later, because that was a Dr. Sleep thing, not a Shining thing.
Yeah.
But or at least not as far as I know. But it's not explained obviously in the movie. But like you said, this movie doesn't really seem like the hotel's going after Danny. They do lure Danny into 237, but other than that, the hotel really seems more interested in just murdering Danny and Wendy. So and getting Jack. They're more. It seems like it's more interested in Jack than anything.
Yeah, and I think it seems like it's interested in getting them out of the way,
right,
rather than trying to overtake Danny or whatever.
Yeah, which I mean, for the movie works fine. And I, we just kind of get the idea that in this movie, Danny's shining ability is what allows him to see things. that most other people wouldn't normally see. Like Wendy never sees anything. Well, she sees the dog costume actually.
Yeah.
She starts to see stuff in the third act, but she's not haunted by things like Danny and Jack kind of are throughout the film.
Well, again, I don't think the hotel cares about her. I don't think the hotel really wants to show her anything because, one, she's not already crazy and she doesn't have the ability to shine. She's just a bystander.
She's just a bystander. Yeah, exactly. Yep. I think that's exactly it for this film. What do you think about the whole scene with the woman in room 237?
That's another thing that I wasn't quite sure of why it was happening. Mm-hmm. Creepy scene, iconic horror scene. But in the context of the movie or thematically, I don't know what it means. I guess it's not necessary to know what it means because it's still an effective scene. Sure. But that's just my own overthinking mind.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, if you were to ask me what it meant, I don't know if I'd have an answer for you either. I think it's just a creepy scene that shows you the dangers of the hotel, really, I guess, because she physically harms Danny. And then she's clearly has an impact on Jack. And then Jack immediately forgets that it happened. Mm-hmm. Like the hotel wipes his memory of it because when he sees Wendy, he's like, there's nothing up there, which I believe is how it happens in the book too. Mm-hmm. There's other things that I remember Jack doing in the mini series anyway. Like he smashes the radio in the office and has no memory of doing it and then thinks that it was Danny. And then he does the same thing with the snowmobile. And we see in this movie him sabotaging those things, but he actually confesses to it kind of to Wendy. Mm-hmm. He kind of taunts her about it. Whereas in the miniseries, he still thinks it's Danny because who else could it have been? He was like, it wasn't me. Wendy says it wasn't her. It had to have been Danny.
Right.
And so he's just constantly, he's getting kind of angry at the kid, even though it was him that was doing it. And he was being persuaded by the hotel to do it. And then the hotel makes him forget, which is such an interesting idea.
Well, again, from my understanding, I think the hotel in the book, and I guess the miniseries as well, is a representation of alcoholism.
Right. Yeah.
And drunkenness. And that's why I get in the book, he
blackouts and stuff like that.
Didn't remember because it's the equivalent of a blackout.
Mm-hmm. Oh, here's a question for you. In the final scene, when Jack is chasing down Danny in the hedge maze, Danny is smart enough to know that he's making
cover his tracks.
Yeah, footprints in the snow, and he needs to cover his tracks. Do you think Danny himself was smart enough to come up with that idea, or do you think Tony told him, "Hey, you got to step backwards into your footprints and then cover up your tracks"?
That's a great question.
It's not.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say it's not said in the movie that it's Tony, but I kind of like the idea that Tony kind of helped him in that moment. I don't think Danny's like a dumb kid by any means, but I just think I don't know. That's my thought. But go ahead. Yeah. Sorry.
Personally, I would like to think that Danny is that smart.
Yeah.
But in the context of the movie, Tony helping him in that moment makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Because there's another movie that I won't say it's something similar, but I guess it's something similar. Us, Jordan Peele, Us. Mm-hmm. The little boy in that, I'm gonna try not to spoil it, but the little boy in that figures something out toward the end of the movie, or it's alluded to that he figured something out. And there's a fan theory saying that he was something else. And I don't like the fan theory because it diminishes his intelligence. Mm-hmm. And that whole scene at the end of the movie. And for that reason, that's why I would like to believe that Danny, or for that same principle, that's why I would like to believe that Danny is that smart, because again, this is a personal preference. If Tony was helping him, which makes complete sense, that kind of diminishes Danny's intelligence, and I always thought that Danny was kind of a pretty smart kid. But if somehow they confirm that it was Tony helping, and we'll never know since Stanley Kubrick is not with us anymore. If they do confirm that, I'd be okay with it. It's not a preference of mine. I would like to think that Danny's just that smart, but I would be okay with it because it makes sense for the story.
Yeah, I don't, and like you were saying, confirmation. I don't know if we'll ever get a confirmation either, because Kubrick has passed away. I was just trying to check to see if the other writer, Diane Johnson, was still alive. I don't know. I didn't see on her IMDb I don't know if it had a birthday/death date on her profile. So she may still be alive too, and but I don't know if she'll ever say. I'm with you. Tony makes sense. I like to think that maybe Tony helped him, but I also don't think Danny is portrayed as a dumb kid by any means in this movie.
Yeah.
And so that is something that it just kind of occurred to me watching it this time, but that has never taken me out of the movie. I've never once been like, this kid would never think of that.
Right. Yeah, because then I know we're not talking about this. Hopefully we will talk about this movie because I love the movie. But in Us, it's the opposite. The kid shows that he is smart. And even though it's a fan theory, it still kind of annoys me. I was like, that to me, that doesn't make sense. And that's a cop-out. I think that is people overthinking with this particular fan theory. I was like, no, because he's shown how smart he was throughout the movie. Of course, he would be the one to figure said thing out. So
right. Yeah, we'll definitely have to talk about that movie so we can go into detail about what you're talking about. Because I've seen that movie, but I don't remember. So when we get offline, I'm going to ask you to explain it a little more.
Yeah, I got you.
So we should do that movie so listeners would be able to know what we're talking about as well.
So I'm on IMDb right now, and I was looking for the composer. Her name is Wendy something.
Wendy Carlos.
Wendy Carlos, thank you. I knew it was Wendy. The score is fantastic. The main theme is awesome, and the atmospheric drums or atmospheric percussion that we get when we get certain imagery or certain jump scares. I love it. It's so disturbing.
Yeah, I love it too, and I really wish that. So, based on a quick Google search, there was a soundtrack released in 2005 that I guess was kind of a special little 25th anniversary edition.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was released in the U.S., but it was released, and it was the full score. I can't find, other than something that was released on vinyl, I can't find a soundtrack that was released for this movie.
Yeah,
there's two tracks on iTunes. There's the main titles and something called Rocky Mountains or something, and they're both great tracks. I bought them because it was $2, but that's all the music I can find from the movie.
Yep, me too.
So it's really kind of disappointing. I really wish they would release the full score for this, and even if it was just a CD release, I'd buy that.
Mm-hmm. What are some of your favorite shots in the movie? Obviously, everybody loves the opening, so we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah, there's helicopter shots. It's hard to pick one. Obviously, my favorite camera move, I
already know what you're going to see.
Yeah, you probably do. It's so simple, but it works so well, and it almost seems like it almost doesn't feel like a Kubrick type of camera move. Mm-hmm. But when he's swinging that axe and the camera's moving with him,
man,
it's so good.
That
and then
that whip pan inspired what I did in my short film, The Drifter. Yeah, because I was thinking, I was like, how am I gonna get this coverage? Oh, I could do a whip pan like in The Shining.
That's awesome. Yeah, Stu just released his. Well, once this episode goes up, it'll have been up for a couple weeks.
Yeah,
but I'll link Stu's newest short film, The Drifter, in the show notes. Check it out. It's really, really good. I play the monster in it. But that's not why it's really, really good. Stu did a great job with it.
Of course, that's why it's really, really good.
No. It's really, really good despite me playing the monster. And so, definitely check it out and let us know what you think.
Yeah.
And hopefully it's his second short film, and hopefully it'll be many, many more to come.
I'm in the middle of writing 2 actually right now. So
Nice. So another favorite shot of mine, it's not one specific shot, it's more of a sequence, but
Yeah.
the final chase through the hedge maze.
Yeah.
All the cinematography in that is just so good. And then that last shot of when it just cuts and you see Jack Nicholson
He's
frozen. Yeah, I just it's so good too. So yeah, there's a lot of really good cinematography in this movie. It's hard to pick a favorite shot.
Yeah.
For you, what's yours? Is it the whip pan?
The whip pan for sure.
Yeah.
It's like you said, it doesn't feel like a Kubrick shot,
Right.
but it is so effective. It works so well. And to be honest, I've never seen another shot quite like it, at least not in this kind of movie. Obviously, I've seen whip pans before. The only other example that I can think of that's like really great is in La La Land.
Oh yeah. That was a really good whip pan as well.
Yeah.
This one, it's just so effective in this movie with just following him swinging the axe.
Mm-hmm.
Another shot you just reminded me that I love is when Jack gets put in the freezer and he's locked in by Wendy.
And the camera is like
it's under, looking up at him, and he's pushing the door and he's kind of looking down. Like, that's such a good shot too. There's some great, I'm sure you've watched it, the making of The Shining. There's some great behind the scenes footage of that. Like, you see Kubrick laying on the ground, like looking up, and then seeing them do the whip pan.
Yeah,
he's like, it's so much fun. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I you know what? I think I know what makes that whip pan work so well is the tension. It's a whip and then a pullback, like a slingshot. Whip,
right.
Pull back, like he's winding up. Whip,
right, yeah.
Wind up, whip, wind up. Like it's just
pulling the rubber band and letting go.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about the hotel itself. There's a documentary called Room 237, which is a really interesting documentary, although it does dive into some conspiracy theory stuff. But it's a very entertaining watch. But one of the things they kind of pointed out, which is something that I didn't notice on my, initial viewings, were kind of the inconsistencies with the hotel itself. For example, in the very, very beginning of the movie, you see Jack walk into Ullman's office, right?
Yes.
And if you pay attention, he's walking kind of down this hallway, and there's people standing at an elevator, which would be like right to the right of Ullman's office. But past the elevator is a clear intersection for a hallway. And then as he comes in and you see Ullman's office, there's a window at the back of Ullman's office, which couldn't be there because of the hallway and stuff. And then there's some other moments like that. Like, I think we see Wendy walking from a hallway that obviously has like an intersection, and then when she turns the corner, there's big wind. It's stuff like that, which you would almost kind of consider to be errors, but we know Kubrick doesn't make those types of errors, or didn't make those types of errors. So it had to be intentional, and I get the feeling that it was because he wanted it to have a creepy vibe without just being, without kind of explaining it to you, without telling you. It's like, it was just this unnaturalness to the hotel, I guess.
Yeah, and it worked. I definitely I noticed the Ullman's office. I didn't notice the hallway that Wendy was walking in. But I definitely noticed the office. I was like, wait a minute, like, are they at the front of the hotel? Or are they like, because I was like, I thought they were like in the middle somewhere.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. It looks like he's like right in the middle of the hotel.
Yeah, and I'm like, how is that possible?
Right. I could be wrong about Wendy, but I think there's a scene where she's either carrying a tray of food or something, or maybe she's pushing a cart.
Yeah, she's pushing a cart. She's taking breakfast to Jack.
Yeah. And I think she's coming from a hotel that looks like it has kind of an intersection, so there'd be another hallway. But as soon as she comes into that like main room where Jack has his typewriter, it's just nothing but big windows looking outside. So that hallway, where does that hallway go? So it's kind of one of those things, which I just find it fascinating. And there might even be a moment when Danny's riding his big wheel that has some, if you kind of pay attention to the layout of the hotel, you're like, that doesn't make sense. but I don't remember. I don't remember for sure. That documentary is worth watching for that stuff alone. Just the design of the hotel, which I just kind of find super interesting.
Yo, what was it? What was it with the color of like pea soup green in the 70s and 80s? Like what's up with that?
That's so I don't feel like this.
It's not that it's a bad color. It's just that it shouldn't be the dominant color.
Right, yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna say. Like, this movie doesn't actually feel that dated, except for like the decor of the hotel.
Yeah,
it's that the room 237 bathroom is hideous, and like their little caretaker apartment is not. It's kind of dated as well, but it's mostly that bathroom in 237. That bathroom is just awful.
Nothing screams late 70s more than that bathroom.
Right, exactly. Speaking of color, crazy color in the rooms, what about that bathroom with Grady and Jack, where it's just like super bright red?
Yeah, that I mean that's just adding to the weirdness of the hotel, because I don't think there's I think the only other scene that has red in it is the gold room with the furniture.
Mm-hmm.
As far as obviously there's the blood, but as far as like the furniture and the walls and stuff, I think those might be the only two scenes that have like a deep bright red in it.
I actually like the look of the bathroom. It's just not a bathroom you normally would see. That bright, super red. Everything is painted red.
Yeah. That bathroom doesn't look like it fits in that hotel.
Right. No, I agree.
Yeah.
And maybe that was the point. I don't know.
Yeah, probably.
All right, Stu, I have a feeling I know what you're going to rate this movie, but I'd still love to hear how many stars you're going to give The Shining.
You don't know me.
Well, that's true. Maybe I don't.
You do. 5 out of 5 axes.
Yep.
5 out of 5 axes. This movie is a masterpiece. That is a word that should not be taken lightly. I think people often overuse that word. But this movie right here, again, while I understand why people don't like it, again, I'm not one of those people. This movie is nearly perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect movie, but this is right up there for me with like Jurassic Park, Back to the Future. Like
right, yeah. When you're right, you're right, and you're right. So I agree with you. It's I guess it's not technically my favorite horror film. That would probably go to Psycho, but it is right up there. So it's a 5 out of 5 for me too. 5 out of 5 axes. It's like I said, it's my favorite Kubrick movie. It's my second favorite Stephen King movie. It's just about flawless, like you said. So
yeah. What are your favorite Stephen King movies?
Shawshank Redemption.
Mm-hmm.
And then it would be this one, and then it would probably be Misery. It Chapter 1 would probably fall in there near the top.
Mm-hmm.
What else? I'd have to look at my Letterboxd list. I have a Stephen King list on Letterboxd, but those are probably the top 4, maybe.
Yeah, for me, well, since you named 4, I'm gonna name 4. For me, it's The Shining, The Langoliers, It Chapter 1, It Chapter 2.
Yeah. Nice.
Well, I'd probably switch It Chapter 1 and The Langoliers.
Nice. I like it. Well, we'd love to know what you think about The Shining. You can always let us know at cinemaheroes.com. You can also post on or comment on our Instagram or tweet at us or whatever it's called now. Both handles are at Cinema Heroes. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment down below what you think of the movie. Give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We'd appreciate it, and we'd love to hear from you however you want to reach out to us. I think that about wraps it up for this episode, though. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm Jay Stu.
As always, thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing.